What's up everyone, Coach Dale here with Ka Fitness, and in this video I'm going to be reviewing the Steel Sweat Powerlifting Belt. Coming up next.
Back from the dead.
Back in March of this year, I decided it was finally time for me to buy myself a weightlifting belt. I've been an avid lifter for over 10 years and I finally started really lifting heavier and heavier, and I wanted to kind of experience the benefits that a belt had to offer. And on top of that, I also had a back strain that I was kind of recovering from, and I wanted a little bit of extra support to help aid in my recovery, because I still wanted to exercise and train during that time while I was recovering. And so I searched around, I did my research, and this is what I found. So I bought this belt in mid-March of 2020, and I've had it for almost exactly 3 months. I'm a size 35 or 36 inch at my waist, and so it looked like that the size medium was going to be the right fit for me, so I bought a size medium. And I use either the third or fourth hole from the tail end, and there's 10 holes of adjustability. So I'm kind of almost in the very middle there. So if I got leaner, I'd have more. If I got a little bit wider, I would have a little bit less, but I'm happy with the sizing for it. This is a single prong belt. It's 4 inches wide and it's 10 millimeters thick. I bought this on Amazon for $46.95, and this is in their advertisement. They say it's a genuine leather belt, and yeah, this is real leather. This is definitely a real leather belt. Now, the dimensions on the belt says that it's 4 inches wide and 10 millimeters thick, and I found that yes, it is 10 millimeters thick, but it's just shy of being actually 4 inches wide. It's actually more like 3 inches and 7/8, but it's only just like an 1/8 inch short of 4 inches. I don't think that's a big deal, but it is marketed as a 4-inch belt, so I feel like that might be a little bit misleading, but again, not a really big deal to me. Now I use this belt about 3 times a week. I lift 3 times a week, and I use it almost every time I train. And I don't like to use a belt for every set and every rep of my training. I usually like to save wearing the belt for the very end, when my weight is usually the heaviest or I'm the most fatigued, and I just want to add that little bit of extra security and support. So yeah, I don't use it. I try not to use it on my warm-up sets or even most of my working sets. I try to just use it for my heaviest sets. So I do get some use, but it's not like super heavy use. I'm not wearing this thing all the time. So what are the pros of this belt? Let me show you. So this is a single prong design, and I purchased the single prong design on purpose to make it as easy as possible to get it on and off. I've heard that buying a 2-prong belt can make it a little bit difficult when you're already kind of struggling to get the belt tight. Adding those 2 prongs can be a little bit difficult, so I opted for the single prong, and surprisingly I feel like there's more 2-prong belts out there on the market than there is single prong, so I had to hunt a little bit harder for this particular belt. The belt is thick and it seems very well made. It's very supportive. When you put this belt on, it really feels solid. You can feel that support. You can feel the rigidity of that belt. This thing is really solid, and I think it's really well made. It's a sturdy design, and the hardware seems really excellent and good quality. Also, the stitching is top notch. I think the stitching is excellent. When I inspect the entire belt, I don't see any imperfections in the stitching. So they did a really good job at Steel Sweat. I haven't experienced any staining. This belt is black. I wanted the kind of classic brown leather belt, but they weren't in stock at the time. So I opted for the black leather belt. I'm very happy with it. It hasn't had any staining whatsoever from me sweating onto it. I don't sweat a whole lot onto it, so I haven't really tested it truly, I think. But the little bit that I have worn it and sweated in it, I haven't noticed any staining, so that's a big positive for me. Alright, so what are some of the cons of this belt? Let me talk about those. The finish is a little bit wrinkly and bubbly. If you look on the belt, just kind of on the back side primarily, the belt has a lot of wrinkle lines in it, and in some spots it almost looks like it's a little bit bubbly in some places where the leather, like the front piece of leather is kind of just not, I don't know what's going on with it, but it wrinkles and it's a little bit bubbly. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that. Aesthetically, it doesn't look great, but functionally, it has no problems. So not a really big deal for me. Again, it's just mainly an aesthetic thing. The holes are approximately 1 inch apart. I think it's fine like it is, but I almost wish they were a little bit closer for better adjustability. I find myself from the 3rd hole to the 4th hole, it seems a little bit of a stretch. So sometimes when I feel like I just want to tighten it down a little bit more to that 4th hole, it seems like it's a bit more effort, and I wish there was just a little bit more adjustability, but I think 1 inch is standard, and that's fine with me for the most part. Now this isn't a big deal, but I've looked at the tail end of this belt, and it looks kind of like the ends are separating on this belt. If you look on this tail end right here, this like top layer on the belt is coming apart just a little bit. Now the stitching is holding it in place, and so I'm not really worried about it, but I can just tell that that might lead to that top layer coming apart. And yeah, I don't think it's really supposed to do that. Again, I don't think it's a big deal. I don't think this belt is going to fall apart. The stitching seems to be holding everything together very, very well. But, you know, I would expect that this wouldn't happen from a brand new belt. Another small con for me is the thickness of the belt is so thick that sometimes, depending on where you wear it and what movement you're doing, if you're doing kind of like I've experienced this with stiff-legged deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, when you're bending over, hinging at your hips, that thick belt kind of digs in sometimes, kind of depending on your placement. So that's a little bit of a con, because if you can't get it right, it hurts a little bit. It's not, again, not a big deal, but it's a very thick belt. So I think a really great belt for the majority of things, but for certain really high range of motion movements, you might experience this belt digging in. That could be just a little bit of a comfort issue for you. Probably one of the last cons that I really have is it's not really against the belt. It's that I have nothing else to compare this to. This is my first weightlifting belt that I've ever owned, and I've had it for less than 6 months. So I don't have a whole lot of time on this belt. There is not a whole lot of wear on this belt. The little bit there is, I feel like it's probably normal wear and tear from a belt, from just cinching it tight around your waist and using it over and over again. But for the most part, I think this belt is wearing very well. So would I recommend this belt? Yes, I would recommend this belt. I think it is a very sturdy design. It is well made. The quality is very good in my opinion. I don't have anything really to compare this to except just my own knowledge of belts and leather. But I think this is a solid belt, and I definitely would recommend it. Is this a good value? In my opinion, yes. I bought this belt for about $47 online at Amazon, and I was doing some research, and there's belts ranging from $70, $80, $100, and it's just a little bit too much for me to spend on a kind of an entry belt. I still wasn't sure what I wanted. I knew I wanted a single prong, and I knew I wanted a leather belt, a 4-inch leather belt that was about 10 millimeters, and so that's what I got, and it's lived up to expectations. I think it's a solid value, because I don't think you could get much better of quality for what you're spending. So I think it's a great value. Do I expect this belt to last? Yes, I do expect this belt to last. Again, the hardware is really top notch. The quality of the stitching is excellent. The only downside I could really find with this belt in terms of kind of quality is the ends coming up here on the tail end. But I don't really think that's a big deal. I don't think that's gonna fall apart in the long run. So time will tell, as they say. but I really don't think that's going to affect the performance of this belt at all. Last question, will this belt make you stronger? No. Put in the time and train your core. You have a natural weightlifting belt on you. It's called your transverse abdominis. Train your core, practice bracing, practice breathing, and you won't need a belt most of the time. And then when you do on your heavier lifts, or if you're like maxing out or something, or if you're a competitor, a belt can help you. A belt will make it feel easier, but it's not going to make you stronger. You got to make sure that you take care of yourself first. My recommendation is your warm-up sets and some of your working sets, the first half of your working sets, train without a belt. Get used to using your core naturally the way your body's meant to move. And when you're competing or when you're going for a big PR, wear your belt, wear your straps, wear the things that are going to help kind of make it feel easier, but they're not going to make you stronger. Remember to train hard, but fight easy. That's it for the review. I hope you enjoyed this video and learned something useful. And if you did, slap that like button like it owes you money and subscribe to the channel. But remember, don't subscribe to a weak core. Keep working hard, stay healthy, and take care of yourself so that you can take care of others. Thanks for watching. Kia kaha.